Thanks, David. If you cannot hear me, please at the back, please pull your hand up. There will some people in the room who have problems listening to me. One of my brothers is deaf and has a cochlear implant. We are not a good combination on the telephone. As David has said, he wanted me to spend some time talking about my involvement, so I'll certainly be doing that. I was a teenager in the 60s, and it was then I first became aware of cancer. And now we've got a slight problem. Getting AB this place to work, but it will work now. This year, it's 100 years since Kathleen Ferrier was born, and there were programs on television last week celebrating that fact. And at home, we had records of Kathleen Ferrier singing, and obviously I learned about her life. She died in 1953 at the age of 41 from breast cancer. We've got a speaker today from UCLH. The friends and colleagues of Kathleen Ferrier set up a fund to aid work and research in cancer, and it still exists. The picture is the Professor, the Kathleen Ferrier Chair of Oncology at University College in London. In her day, she was very, very popular, and her records even outsold those of Frank Sinatra, and the royalties went towards her, towards the fund. Now, about the same time as I was listening to those records, I went on a school trip, a field trip, and in those days, health and safety was something that applied to coal mines and not schools. And I started to smoke. Going on a few years to the millennium. By then, I'd done a physics degree in Sheffield, and I got a 30-year back-a-day smoking history. And despite being educated and aware, I ignored the signs. My voice was affected, and there was suspicion of a continuing sore throat. Eventually, I did go and get something done about it, and I had 6 weeks of radiotherapy at Western Park. Unfortunately, the cancer came back, and that meant I needed my voice box removing. I got no fears about radiotherapy. I've worked with radiation in school. We were a bit blasé about radiation. You can see the boxes that contain the radioactive material with lead in. And then it went in that cabinet. Well, if you put a Geiger counter outside the cabinet, you still got a very healthy count. Mercury poisoning from broken thermometers. And a bit of radiation with a risk of teaching. During my radiotherapy, I've seen people who'd had their voice boxes removed. Either like me, using an electrolarynx, or having a valve. I've got a valve, but it doesn't work very well. I really at the start couldn't imagine life having to speak like that. And it was only when you're faced with the choice. You either have the operation and lose your voice box, or it's good night that you made it. In fact, I was offered the chance of a partial laryngectomy or the whole lot out, and I said in the end, I get the whole lot out. I want to be done with it. I want the best chance of being cured. After I had my voice box out, I was able to go back to teaching. But in 2007, I retired for other reason, nothing to do with the voice. And it was at that point that I became involved with cancer support groups, both locally and nationally. It was 5 years between my operation and me going to a meeting of a support group. And I don't think I realized then the value, because living, breathing through an hole in your neck, there are certain complications, and you learn from other patients how to cope with these problems. I was then asked by people within the National Association if I would put myself forward to get involved in the research world, and I went for an interview in London, a fearsome interview panel, and they never even offered you a cup of tea.
I knew gonna let me forget you.
But after the interview, I joined the Head and Neck Cancer Clinical Studies Group of the NCRI. If you're going to be involved as a patient, then the clinicians are very important. And each of them, the chair of the group, or newly appointed chair of the group, is ideal. He values the views of patients and shows complete respect. I'm a member of the Head and Neck Scientific Group for North Trent, and likewise the chair of that, Austin Smith, makes being involved a really rewarding experience, but not all professionals are like that. Since becoming involved in the group, I've got involved in some specific projects. A project of the James Lind Alliance, identifying priorities for head and neck cancer research. The Alliance have done this for a variety of medical conditions, including prostate cancer. Later in the year, hopefully we will be publishing the priority list. They work in the way that clinicians and patients have an equal voice. one of the uncertainties that I've brought forward is managing one of the late effects of radiotherapy. I've had radiotherapy. The carotid arteries that carry the blood to the brain may have been affected by that. And in later years, I may suffer from those effects. It could cause stroke. In America, they are far more active in managing those sort of things, perhaps because there's money to be made out of it. I'm a member of a mail list from a group in America called Web Whispers for patients who've had a laryngectomy, and that's a recent message that was posted. Someone who nearly drowned in their own blood because the wall of the artery burst, and that's another possible effect of radiation. Not everything I'm going to say may please Moira, I'm afraid. There are some downsides about radiotherapy. The number of cases of larynx cancer are falling. Other cases, types of cancer in the throat are not, and HPV virus is leading to an increase in cases of oral cancer, and I've just joined the steering group for that clinical trial. They always come up with very fancy names with the letters that they use. They did join the SLA steering group. I've also reviewed the patient information leaflets for other trials. So in the 2 years, the workload has gone up, but it's never been dull. Now, I didn't want to stand here and give my experience alone. Okay, my cancer came back, but in fact, my journey's been straightforward. There were very few complications. So I decided to get views of other people. One of the support groups in Chesterfield heading forward, they kindly helped me, and I did a survey of around 12 patients and their experiences of radiotherapy. Last week I was in Oxford at an head and neck patients day organised by the Thames Valley Network, and I heard a lot about their experiences of radiotherapy. In my experience, there and elsewhere, the satisfaction levels of cancer patients are very high, and they are very, very appreciative of the support that they get from staff and the care. Okay, some things can go wrong, and despite the negative things that are going to come up in a minute, I think that needs to be kept at the front of the mind. I asked when they had the radiation therapy, and for almost all of them, they had radiotherapy in the last 3 years. Before radiotherapy, what they were concerned about were the side effects. For head and neck cancer, the effect on the salivary glands. And they were concerned about the travel issues which we've been hearing about. As next, what actually happened? 3 problems: dry mouth, swallowing problems, and soreness around the neck and face. every person reported they had at least 2 of those problems, if not all 3. There was a serious effect on the ability to eat, and a third of the patients needed to be fed through a peg tube, but everybody needed to change their diet to some extent for a while. And as for what they've been left with, permanent effects, almost 50% have dry mouth issues, and there are many other swallowing problems reported that they've been left with as a result of the radiotherapy. I then asked for general comments. Worse than the hospital said it would be. I would have opted for a laryngectomy straight away. With hindsight, would not have had it. Not as bad as chemotherapy. I think I was surprised. This is just 12 people. It's not a specialized study. The population cannot be guaranteed to match if you got 1,000 people. But I have to say I was surprised that 2 of the 12 regretted having radiotherapy. I think I do have to ask, are patients getting enough information beforehand? It's a very difficult balance. There are some patients who take the view, right, tell me what I've got to do and I'll do it. You just get on and cure me. Others, like me, need or wanted to know a lot. But clearly, several of those patients felt they weren't prepared for what was going to happen to them. Now, personally, you could have told me anything about radiotherapy when I had it, and I would say, yes, I'm having it, because it was much better than the alternative. But I think we have to balance patient needs. Some people made a decision. I don't know that I was actually given a lot of information. It's going back 10 years. And I found more for myself because I wanted that. So, looking at the information the patients gave me, that's the question I would ask. There is an issue with larynx cancer that's been identified by DARNO, the Data for Head and Neck Oncology group. If you present with a problem at an early stage tumor on the vocal cords, then you could be treated that with laser surgery, or you could have radiotherapy. But what is astonishing is the variation across the country. In some networks, only 7% of patients get radiotherapy. In others, 77%. And is that because we're not sure which is the best treatment? Is it because of factors like, right, where is the radiotherapy centres? Are the surgeons offering the laser surgery? There's quite a variation within North Trent in terms of how these cases are dealt with, and in terms of the effects that people can be left with. I think we need more research to identify, right, what is the best treatment for early-stage larynx cancer. Finally, an example of patient impact. Last year, the NCCRN published a survey, an analysis that they've done about the travel times and distances for radiotherapy for head and neck cancer patients over 2 years, 2006 to 8. That this work was done was due to the patient representatives on that group who identified it as a particular problem. I don't know whether Christine, you were on the group at that time, but certainly Jean Fraser, who lives in the north of England, and if we saw the graphs for the travel times for patients in Cumbria for radiotherapy, then they're a lot worse than what we saw for North Kent. But as a result of the patients on that group, the analysis was done. Thank you.
Thank you. And obviously, Malcolm's talking retrospectively about treatment that he had as much as 10 years ago. The rest of the day, we're going to be concentrating on the research that's being done into radiotherapy delivery and looking at the ways that radiotherapy has improved and overfished in recent years, but hopefully the way that it can improve even more in the years to come. We've got time for a couple of questions before coffee, if anybody would like to ask. Can I just mention the point? Malcolm talks about being a physics teacher. I was a physics teacher as well. And the young lady that I'm going to give the microphone to now was one of the pupils in one of my physics classes. Sorry, Lee.
It's not a question, it's just a follow-up that next Thursday we are actually having a meeting with one of the head and neck consultants to discuss the survey from the head and neck focus group and how we can look at it within radiotherapy and improve things from the patient's perspective. So it just shows how we can move forward from what yourselves have done.
Yes, the words I attended the focus group, and there was some interesting comments put forward, and obviously of the 12 patients who filled in my questionnaire, 10 of them would have been to Western Park.
Can I just make the point, Nicola, that the photograph that Malcolm showed of the Geiger counter in the boxes streets, that was in my desk as well at the front of your classroom.
Again, Malcolm, just a bit of a follow-up. I think one of the downsides of the success that we've had with radiotherapy is the fact that people are living longer, and we are seeing these long-term effects of radiotherapy that we haven't seen before. And I agree, we do need to do a lot more research now, because cancer is becoming a disease that you actually live with, and you're living with the consequences of treatment that we've not seen before. And I agree, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to give the impression that radiotherapy is a walk in the park. It isn't. You know, but what I'm saying is that it has to be considered part of treatment, suitable treatment for cancer. But we also now have to look at the more successful we get with radiotherapy, we are going to see these long-term effects that we never dreamt of years ago. And although it's a positive that people are being cured of cancer, we are actually causing problems later in life. But again, we've got to get over the hurdle for people to live longer, and then we've got to do the research. Well, now we've got to do the research about how we deal with these.
I was talking to a clinician at the event in Oxford, and they are just about to start rolling out IMRT. But she said they wouldn't be doing it for larynx cancer. They're more concerned about protecting people who it's even more risky for people who have the radiation higher up. Mine was
Morning everyone, I'm Rose Thompson, Director of BME Cancer Communities and BME Cancer Black Minority Ethnic. I'm really pleased to hear your talk, Malcolm, and to hear that you're a physics teacher as well. I'm actually a therapy radiographer and I have a family history of breast cancer. Lost two of my family members to it. My mother refused to have radiotherapy because she was praying for treatment, praying for healing, which still happens in many of our communities. I was just interested in hearing you talk about the side effects as well, because I'm conscious that radiotherapy has quite a bad press publicly because of side effects. Have you connected with any other groups like the pelvic? People who've had radiotherapy of the pelvis? And have you come across any patients from black or ethnic groups? I'm conscious that there isn't large representation here that have been affected by the same condition as you. I'm conscious that the smoking rates are quite high. It takes 15 to 20 years to see the effects, but we are beginning to see it now.
It is sad to report that I think that the groups, the circles that I move in do not reflect the community. I'm Vice President of the National Association of Laryngectomy Clubs, and we've got about 98 clubs groups all around the country affiliated to us. And I think it would be really interesting if we, for example, could take an initiative and start looking at what is our profile. I'm sure there's a lot of work to be done on that.
I mean, the conversation at the end, I'm sure, will be fruitful between the two of you, but and with the national groups and the local groups, we've tried our best to get to black and ethnic minority groups, and with some limited success, but still, as Malcolm says, it's difficult to reflect the true balance. Charles, and then this lady, and then 1, 2, 3, please. Charles.
Yeah, I'm going to good working it is. A question, yes. Last year, I think it was, whether it was a result of it being radiotherapy year, I don't know, but a paper or article somewhere I read that radiotherapy produced better outcomes than chemotherapy overall. Today we've heard that if you see an oncologist first, you might get radiotherapy. If you see a surgeon first, you get carved up first. Is there anything coming together on this to try and find actually the best route for the patient?
In my experience, there was. My sense of humour doesn't always endear me to doctors, but I remember making a comment to the oncologist in Western Park that I was really hoping he would save me from the butchers at Jedgefield Royal Hospital because I did not want to have surgery. But even going back 10 years ago, in my time, everything was decided at a joint clinic where there was the oncologist and the surgeon present, and I think that's been developed even better now.
Yeah, and the vast majority of cancer patients are discussed at multidisciplinary teams that would include representatives of all of the surgeons, oncologists, and some people from those fields obviously. I'm sorry, we've got time for 2 more questions and then we'll break for coffee.
Very quick. It's not really a question, Malcolm, but it's just as a follow-up from your interesting information. My name is Sarah Smith and I'm a therapy radiographer too, but I actually now work in education training the new therapy radiographers. So I've come today with some examples outside. If anyone is interested, I can show you the difference between IMRT and radiotherapy, and I have some head and neck patient examples, so I can give you a good visual demo if it's of interest.
Thank you.
It's about the information. I know of patients in Chesterfield who say they will not travel to Sheffield for treatment. And in what you give, getting the balance right in terms of what you tell the patient is a very tricky one. So I pose the question, are patients getting enough information before treatment? That's the easy bit, coming up with the question, coming up with the answers, how you do it is a difficult thing.
It's a comment again as well, really, and just to put in context, I've been a patient who had radiotherapy, I'm a third radiographer by training, and now work at the Cancer Support Centre. And that's this lady's comment. We've noticed in the last couple of years, much more have been approached to us to raise awareness and definitely have active groups. And this last 2 months, I've been out to the Asian community, Chinese community, and the Somalian community to raise awareness about symptoms and to try and allay fear and to sort of give people that link back in to kind of that raise awareness and sort of.
I've not seen any research, but I'd be interested to see the results looking at the difference in treatment choices made by different communities.
Just at the beginning